8.
And you're giving Cleveland 10.
I think it's a lot of points. I will say it's Kansas City at home, and the Chiefs are not the Pittsburgh Steelers.
No, and they're healthier. You know, Pittsburgh was down since like almost Thanksgiving, down 2 of their best linebackers. Yeah.
But it still is a lot of points. So the big news, Doug Peterson is out in Philadelphia just 3 years after winning the franchise's only Super Bowl. Peterson has reportedly been fired as the Eagles head coach. In 5 seasons with the team, he had a record of 42, 37-1 and was 4-2 in the playoffs. So now there are 7 teams that need head coaches: the Chargers, the Eagles, the Falcons, the Jags, the Jets, the Lions, and the Texans.
Well, I think this changes things. I think the Chargers is still the best job. I think Philadelphia is now the second best job.
Well, what makes this very, I don't know, it's confusing, but there's a lot to process here. So you're moving off of your head coach in Doug Peterson. So are you sticking with Carson Wentz?
Well, that's what it feels like to me, is you get a coach that can get along with Carson Wentz.
So what do you do with Jalen Hurts?
Well, he's a backup, and maybe you let him compete in camp, but the reality is you're paying Carson Wentz $35 million a year. He's got to play. You can't sit a guy paying $35 million. So either engineer a trade. What I think it tells me, Joy, is they're going to hire an offensive coach. They've got to get the Carson Wentz thing fixed.
Do they?
God, I mean,
if they were planning on sticking with Doug Peterson, then you trade Carson Wentz and you stick with Jalen Hurts. I don't know. I have to talk to some Eagles fans and see what their pulse on this is. But if I'm an Eagles fan, I am ready to move off of Carson Wentz.
Well, if
I've seen enough from Jalen Hurts this year, and it's no like disrespect to what Carson Wentz is capable of. I just think it's just you saw too much with Jalen Hurts for him to say. If Carson Wentz goes out there and struggles,
well, here's the thing. We know Chris Mortensen reported San Francisco will look to move off Garoppolo. Doesn't mean they will, but they'll look. We know the Colts are a dynamic quarterback away from winning the Super Bowl.
And Frank Reich is there.
So there's 2, and both those rosters are ready to win the Super Bowl. They need a healthy, dynamic quarterback. So I think the Niners and the Colts will make some offer to Philadelphia. And if that's the case, I think Philadelphia would probably take it, just because of the reality of what we're seeing in playoffs is if you don't pay your quarterback anything, they're not paying Jalen Hurts anything.
Right.
You can just get more free agents.
And that money the money thing doesn't matter in that situation because you're not paying Jalen Hurts. So that money is just like what's slotted for quarterbacks on your team.
That's right.
So it's not like you're doubling up. So if he's not there and it's a cap hit, you're not paying Jalen Hurts.
Anything.
So you'd have to pay him regardless. And now Peterson is on the market for a job. So Jay Glazer just tweeted, keep an eye on Doug Peterson and the Jets. He has a great relationship with GM Joe Douglas. I don't think that Doug Peterson is a bad coach. That was a bad decision.
Well, I don't think he's a bad coach, but he certainly wasn't as good once Frank Reich left.
No, that was glaringly obvious.
Okay, so, again, when Kyle Shanahan left Atlanta, their head coach didn't win as many games. Like, there are these superstar coordinators and the coach is capable. Doug's capable. But, boy, he was never the same when Frank left. And Frank, by the way, what a shock. The Colts are really good.
Yeah. So after starting 11-0, the Steelers lost 4 of their last 5 regular season games and were bounced in the playoffs with a 48-37 loss to the Browns last night. That final score does not reflect the absolute demolition job that the Browns did to the Steelers.
You've never seen a score that meant less. Cleveland crushed them.
Absolutely. And Mike Tomlin had a tough time explaining what happened to his team in Pittsburgh's collapse.
We didn't do enough. We didn't position them in enough good circumstances. We didn't make enough plays, particularly in the critical moments. We were a group that died on the vine.
I don't know what the Steelers were doing yesterday. I have no idea.
Just didn't look prepared, didn't look ready to play.
They didn't look prepared, and then once things took a turn, what are you dinking and dunking for? You're down 28-0 in a playoff game. 10 yards, these little 5-yard checkdowns are not going to do it. Throw the ball down the field. And you saw what happened when they actually did. Now, listen, the Browns were in a different defense at that point.
Look at
Ben.
But
you have to get chunk plays. It was impossible.
Look at Ben.
It was a disaster.
Look at Ben. That is such a weak effort. We banged on Cam Newton for not going after a fumble. Look at this effort by Ben Roethlisberger. This is pathetic.
Here's the thing about Pittsburgh. They lost Bud Dupree. They lost Devin Bush. And nobody's paying attention to that because it's not sexy, but it matters. They also have no rushing. They do not rush. They had 52 total yards rushing. That's not going to work when you have an old quarterback. That doesn't work. Cleveland, on the other hand, did not have that problem. The Browns rushed for 127 total yards. Nick Chubb 76, Kareem Hunt 48, and Baker added 2. But that you don't have any kind of rushing game whatsoever. You lost Devin Bush. You lost Bud Dupree. Yeah. Big Ben is aging. I thought that they should have done something at the quarterback position in the offseason, in this past offseason. Now it's glaringly obvious that they have to do something, but I don't think that Pittsburgh will. The thing about the Pittsburgh Steelers is they have Super Bowl expectations every single year, as they should, because they're a winning organization that's run very well. They're a very loyal fan base and a very loyal organization, sometimes you can be loyal to a fault.
Yeah, it's very Midwest feeling.
You can't be loyal to Big Ben anymore.
Yeah.
If you watched that last night and you're still talking about Big Ben has a little bit more in him, he just needs some more pieces, you're watching something different than the rest of the world watched, and that's probably because you have loyalty to Pittsburgh. I was born and raised there. I know how it goes. Ever since they lost Le'Veon Bell, or Le'Veon Bell left, however you want to look at it.
Can't run the football.
Doesn't work.
No, I mean, they're 28th, 29th, 30th. If you go look at their last 3 years running the football, I saw it earlier this year, they can't run the football since he left.
Finally, Alabama and Ohio State meet tonight in the national championship game to round out this Christmas football weekend. It's just like a gift. It should be a high-scoring affair. Both teams have explosive offenses. Alabama scored second most points per game this season and is home to the Heisman winner Devontae Smith. And Justin Fields is coming off an unbelievable performance against Clemson with career high